It's the first time the suspended CBN governor will be seen in public after his arrest on June 10. He was brought to the Federal High Court, Lagos, by the Department of State Services, DSS, at about 9:20 a.m. for his arraignment on a 2-count charge of illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition, and promptly led into the courtroom of Justice Nicholas Owebo. The 2-count charge was read to him, and he pleaded not guilty. Then followed arguments by his lead counsel, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Joseph Daudu, and the prosecution counsel, Nkiru Jones-Nebo, a Deputy Director of Prosecution of the Federation, on the vexed issue of whether Mr. Emefiele's bail application could be argued. The prosecution insisted that he had not been served with a copy of the bail application, but was swiftly confronted with a proof of service endorsed by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. In his ruling, Justice Owebo held that there was indeed evidence of service. He rejected the objections of the federal government and proceeded to hear the bail application. In his submissions, Joseph Daudu asked the court to admit his client to bail on self-recognizance or on other liberal terms, pending the hearing and determination of the trial. But the prosecution counsel opposed the request for bail. In an oral submission, the prosecutor argued that the suspended governor of the CBN is a powerful man who could intimidate witnesses. She asked the court to note that he had refused to hand in his passport, an indication of his capacity to abscond and evade his trial. After listening to both parties, Justice Owebo declined to grant bail on self-recognizance. Instead, he granted bail in the sum of 20 million naira with one surety in like sum. The surety must own a landed property in Lagos and swear to an affidavit of means. The defendant is also to deposit his international passport with the court registrar. Pending the fulfillment of all these conditions, the judge remanded the suspended CBN governor in the custody of the Ikori Correctional Center, as against the request of the FG's counsel that he be remanded in the custody of the DSS. Shortly after the court's ruling, lawyers to the federal government took their leave, declining to comment on the day's proceedings. Operatives of the DSS strategically took positions preparatory to rearresting Mr. Emefiele. His lawyers quickly raised an alarm.
We saw an avowed intention on their part to actually take him back into their custody, despite the order of court. We then called the attention of the learned trial judge, who was magnanimous to hear us. And we told him that these were our fears. So he sent for the officer in charge of the squadron that you see milling around here, armed to the teeth. And his answer was that he's under instruction to secure his safety, and therefore he's under instruction from his boss, meaning the Director General, that he should bring him back. And we said no. The judge then told him, I am now in charge. The court is in charge. He has been brought to court and we have made orders. And he has been asked to go there. Apparently seemed adamant. And he turned and left.
Attempts by the officials of the correctional center to take custody of the suspended CBN governor was met with resistance by the DSS, and this led to a clash. Following interventions from lawyers and other quotas, the officers of the correctional center withdrew and took their leave, paving the way for the DSS to again take custody of Mr. Emefiele.
Are constrained because we do not want where there will be exchange of arms by the two organs of government. We may very, very reluctantly allow our client, force the DSS to willfully, consciously, intentionally flout the orders of the court by taking him into their custody.
At about 3 p.m., the drama came to an end, with the DSS leading the suspended CBN governor away. Trial in this court has been fixed for November the 14th. Shola Shoyeli, Channels Television News.
And that's where we're kicking it up from that drama at the courts yesterday. What's the implication? We have here in the studio Professor Paul Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us, Prof.
Thank you, my brother.
For one who's also teaching these same things to the would-be lawyers and all, and a Senior Advocate of Nigeria, what are the implications of Emefiele's rearrest against the court order?
This is a very difficult issue to comment on because one will even swear that this type of thing cannot happen. I mean, I don't know how we look to the world because I mean television and the internet makes the world a global village. So across the world, this is what is being shown as Nigeria. I mean, in legal terms, we say so a matter is in the custodial legis of the court. What it means is that it is in the bowels of the court. It is the court that is being dragged around, not Emefiele. Emefiele is just a human being. And when you see people say, well, what is the need to go to court? We have moved from go to court to go into that court, and you are before the court. The judge intervened. The judge had not even finished his proceedings. You reject it, the judge made an order, you threw the order away because you have guns. So that is what has played out. The DSS, if they have grounds, can rearrest Emefiele. That's not the issue. But not in the face of the order of the court. Now, if the order of court had been carried out and the DSS has a reason to arrest, not even rearrest, it's the wrong language, because the first arrest is gone, terminated with the order of the court. The DSS had the right to invite him or arrest him and also bring him to court within constitutional limits. Because nobody should be allowed to operate beyond the law. And you could see that lawyers were in court, litigants were in court. What if there was, it got to a point that the correctional service insisted, reinforced, all of them reinforced, and then the shooting begins, or more fracas, because there was, you could see an officer of NCS, you could see the singlets.
His uniform was ripped apart.
Yes, so it is sad, and I believe that the president should step into this one that we have seen now, because let's leave the Old Testament, what had been going on before. But I expect the president to step in and take decisive actions on this. And then going forward, all the agencies of government should be taken through orientation as to rule of law. This is not a military regime. And much more, any officer that will be sent to the court should have some further briefing that you don't desecrate the court. So why would people say, okay, let's go to court, or let's look at the security agency that they will do the right thing? Are you asking people to say, well, there's no hope?
Is it that the officials are unaware of the fact that, when the court gives an order, it ought to be obeyed? Because, I mean, this fracas, one would say, was only brought about because one agency of government felt that they had been told by the court that, the accused should be in your custody pending when he perfects his bail conditions. But the other, let's say, security agency felt that they could rearrest, if we can use that word, or flout the order of court. But you see the other security, or let's say the other custodial agency trying to uphold the judgment of court. So is it that, you know, they're not aware or they need training? Because we're listening to Mr. Dowda, SAN there, he said that, you know, they spoke to the most senior person there, and he says he's under instructions from his own boss. So the question is the instruction of the boss to a DSS official greater than the order of court which had just been given a few moments before? In what dilemma do you think that the officers themselves found themselves?
Well, it's happened several times before, but it didn't. I'm not aware of anyone that got to this extent where the judge was still sitting. If you listen to Joseph Dowda, the judge was sitting, and that they brought the matter before and the judge invited that officer. Who else will the officer listen to? Even if you had instruction, you get back to your boss. This is what the court had invited me. This is what the court has said. The decision of the court is the final on that point. Not even the president can intervene, the commander-in-chief of all the forces. That's why it's called the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The president will only comply with the law and do other things.
Like appeal if he wants.
You know, and it is more stunning. I'm shocked, seriously, because if you listen to Mr. Dawood, you will see that the issue of where Emefiele will go until he perfects the bail condition was contested. There was a contestation that it should be taken to DSS custody. And there's also a submission that it should be to the correctional service, and the judge ordered it should go to correctional service. The judge did not say, Emefiele, walk away. Now, why wouldn't that order be obeyed? I'm so worried too, because there's no Attorney General in place. And I urge the President, because even of this development, to take urgent steps to appoint an Attorney General, because that's where I would have actually addressed my comments more to, as the Chief Law Officer, to take urgent steps. Because there is no justification for... So what if the army had come, or any other agency had come and said, no, our own boss said, bring this man.
But is it...
I was just about to say that some people will say that perhaps what we witnessed yesterday was impunity.
No, impunity is a smaller language.
It is.
Impunity is smaller because it's a different scenario that the court had risen, but the court was no longer sitting, and maybe not even within the border, the perimeter of the court of the Federal High Court. They intercept him or something. That's a different. This is that you came within us in the court premises. That's the first part of it. The attention of the judge is drawn to it. The judge summons the leader of the team. The leader of the team says, well, you are a court. I cannot take orders from you. I have an order from my boss, and that's what I will obey.
So what word would you use?
I find it difficult to get a word for it because it's novel. It's novel. It doesn't happen. In all the decades of practice law, no. Yeah. You don't hear about that. You can hear about, like I said, intercepting the witness outside the court. Well, the next thing that would have been, Mr. George, did you hear me? I will take you also along.
You know, you said something earlier, just before we bring in our Lagos colleagues in Lagos. You said something about orientation.
Yes.
I scribbled something here, operational parameters for each of the agencies of government.
Yes.
When you say that orientation, what should that orientation be
What
like?
I'm trying to say,
who would have to
what I'm trying to say is that you have the Office of National Security Advisor, and you have other offices. There should be clearance. Okay, not long ago, it's becoming a recurring decimal, and the president must take steps, because I'm saying the president because there is no attorney general in place now. But the president must take urgent steps, because not long ago you got the DSS and EFCC few meters away from that court, trying to having issues as to who takes 15 Awolowo away. And the president had to intervene. That's what brought that. We didn't know what would have happened again. So there must be interagency cooperation and not rivalry. Both the NCS and DSS, they have their heads who could have been reached quickly to resolve it, to say, okay, boys, come back. It's also possible that the DG of SSS did not even know of the order of court that was going on. I'm sure if he knew, he wouldn't agree that that this kind of scenario will take place.
It truly is scandalous. I mean, saying, Nigeria's security agencies, in a fisticuff within a court premises over an order of court. I mean, as you said, no one could ever have conceptualized or, internalized that what we saw yesterday in the court. But I'm a little curious, because it's taken a while for Mr. Emefiele himself to be presented in court about the matter itself that has brought Mr. Emefiele to court. And for a number of people, they're a little curious as to why it has taken so long for the DSS, which had taken him into custody for the longest of times, to be able to come up with something more concrete in terms of the, let's say, the matter which he's been accused of. For a number of people, they're a little surprised at the charges which the DSS presented before him. And if we're to go by what the lawyers say, they say it's some old gun, I mean, possibly a decorative piece for which he's been charged of being in possession of. Why do you think that this matter is looking very complex? Are they looking for the charges, or is still investigating before arresting, or, beg your pardon, well, after they've arrested him, as we had accused the EFCC of doing in times past?
Again, I expect that things should change for the best. What we're talking about is difficult to talk about it, because you cannot envisage that this can be happening now. The Constitution says if you are arrested, you should be charged to court within a reasonable time. And a reasonable time will not mean more than close to 6 weeks. It cannot mean that. Now, efforts have been made, application for bail has been filed, the man is brought to court. From what you saw in the court, is the court worth anything in this instance? Is the court in reckoning? And that's why you could keep the man endless. And the people carrying out these acts or the instructions are given, if the table turns against it, is the same court they are going to run to. Now look at Emefiele himself. We're only discussing this because we stand by the principles. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, while Emefiele was governor for 8 years or 9 years of Central Bank, did he ensure that the rights and proper treatment of those in CBN was carried out? Did he ensure that the court system is properly funded? Did he ensure that even the security agencies are properly funded and trained? Did he ensure that other Nigerians who were then manhandled or had their rights infracted upon, did he ever say or ensure that the government or security agencies respected their rights. Today it is installed.
Aren't those outside the remit of what a CBN governor is supposed to do?
No, but it's he's a member of the Executive Council. He's a member of several things. He has influence to state certain things.
Yeah, but if he spoke and we don't know, how are we supposed to know?
Well, if he spoke, that's fine. But I'm only saying that even as governor of CBN, he wouldn't have believed that this could happen to him. So when people are in offices, they should know that it is like an oscillating fan. That office may not be permanent. Let's begin to build strong institutions, respect principles, do the right things. I'm not defending RMFLA. I won't even do. I'm saying that whoever it is, the law presumes someone who has been accused innocent or proven guilty. Let us accord every Nigerian right, irrespective of where he's from, religion, and color of his skin.
How do you think that, because some people say this is an injury to the courts, how do you think this can be remedied?
Exactly. I had expected that the federal government would have issued a statement on this point. I've expected that the heads of those institutions should have met, and I also expected that the judiciary should have responded. I'm sure that Nigerian Bar Association will issue statements, but this is not a question of issuing statements. This is so. Why do we then go to court if a security official will come into court and tell the court, this is your order, we will not obey? It was content. The court had also rights to make orders.
Should the judge step in? I mean, seeing that he was still sitting when this was happening, should the judge step in?
The judge cannot step in.
Like a
it's only thing. No, it's only if there must be some application, because he will not be a judge and an accuser and all that at the same time. But I'm aware that if a proper application is brought before the court.
I asked that question because if this was inside the courtroom,
it was inside the courtroom,
he would have had to say
something. The contempt would have been that officer there and then, who told him he was under instruction. The court would have wielded his power and shown that officer that said that the officer here is me, and you should know it. It happened many years back in the days of Gani Fayomi. He had given an instruction, given something not so similar to this, but one of the juniors from his chambers had gone before a judge in Ikeja and then said what his principal told him to say. And the court said, call your principal to come immediately. Principal came and they cited him for contempt. And the Court of Appeal says, no, it is the junior that said that before you that you should have cited for contempt. Because you may not even know whether it was what the man said. So, but you could see maturity on the side of this judge. He restrained himself. He had all the powers. So Weibo would have said, okay, I remand you.
Who would have remanded the judge? I mean, the
judge had the right.
What I'm saying is, I mean, is it the police that would now say?
Well, the order will be there.
Okay, interesting. I mean, interesting, because since these are also.
But that judge showed maturity.
How grievous is this? How grievous an injury would you say this is to the courts of our land?
I can't measure it, but I don't think we've had it like this in the history of the judiciary in Nigeria. It's about, that's why I was saying, it happened while the court was still sitting, and the court also intervened. Other species of impunity had happened, no problem. But this one, the court called the officer and said, look here, I have made an order. And the officer said, yes, your order should be where it is. And that's why politicians can say go to court, because the order of court will not count.
Well, Professor Ananaba, we have to thank you very much for, helping us understand just how sobering a moment this should be for us all.
Yeah.
Because it really speaks to, we're talking about an entire arm of government. If this is our democracy, and we say that we're doing a democracy operated on the basis of 3 arms of government, it does tell us what a sobering moment this should be for all of us. And we hope to see, many more responses in the coming days, as you said, from perhaps starting from perhaps the NBA and a number of other bodies.
Yeah, let me say this, that it's not even up to what the Supreme Court considered in Governor of Lagos State and Ojukwu when it described it as executive lawlessness. This is worse than that.
Well, Professor Ananaba, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Today this morning.